Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 4 of ARINGO Coffee Chat series. I am Priyanka, and we're so excited for all of you to join us. So, as we know, many of you are working on your MBA applications right now for the round 2, and that is the reason why we have chose the topic of this today, the MBA application essays. It's arguably the most critical component of your MBA application. But specifically, we'll be covering three main whys of your essays that define your stories. So those are why MBA, why now, and why this school. So we strongly believe that anyone who masters these three whys should get an acceptance letter, right, Jen?
That is the plan, right? Yes. So thanks so much, Priyanka, for the introduction and making sure that we kind of are all on board with this. But the GMAT is a quantitative part of your application. The resume is factual, but the essay is really subjective. And the AdCom is trying to figure out, why you want to be here, what you want to do. And that's, really why what the AdCom is trying to get from your application. So that's why we're here to talk about your vision.
Yes, thank you, Jen, and thanks for coming again and joining this session. For everybody who don't know, so Jen is the CEO of Aringo, and she has great expertise on MBA applications. Going ahead, before I start with all the details, I want to let all the attendees know that as we've notified you on the email as well, we are also giving one lucky attendee. Uh, an offer of a complimentary strategy call session, which is roughly $500. So we'll pick one and we'll share the details with that person. Additionally, at the end of the session, we have two very valuable offers. So including the one that you can have a free a free profile evaluation session with Jen and discuss about your essays, your goals, etc. And then you can plan further. And we'll talk about all these once we are done with the session and with the question and answers. And just stay with us till the end. Okay, let's start, Jennifer. So let's start with the foundation first. So first question, as we say, why MBA? So why MBA is like a career bridge question, Jen. It needs to connect your past success to your future goals. So what's the simplest and most effective formula that you think that candidates can do here that they structure their career goals and clearly establish the need for an MBA for them?
Yeah. So you call it a bridge, I call it a thread. I think that everybody has kind of a different, story as to what or title of what they call it. But in the end, what you're really trying to do is put together a formula, right? And so you want to kind of be able to talk about what you've been able to do, and what you've been able to accomplish, and then what you're missing, which is like the gap, right? And so is that skills? Is it knowledge? Obviously, the network and things like that are going to be an inherent part of the of the MBA program itself. But really, what is it that you're missing that you're going to get to fulfill during this MBA and how it connects to that future goal? So if you're wanting to continue on in your MBA, in your career path, then, advancing the skills. If you're wanting to pivot, learn new skills and get exposure. So, being able to kind of think of what I've done and what I want to do and what's right there in that middle part that the MBA is going to be able to fulfill. And that's what the MBA admissions committee is looking for.
Okay, so you mentioned about the skill deficit, the gap that you were talking about. So a lot of candidates have, they have technical skills, they have tactical skills, but maybe lacking leadership skills, etc. So how do we advise the candidate that, how should they portray that deficit in their MBA essays? And they should not look complaining about their current job that they're not getting opportunities, etc. So is there a subtle way of bringing in that skill deficit gap that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think that some way that you could say essentially that you've hit a ceiling, right? And you want to say, like, I've successfully managed projects, but the lack of the financial modeling or change management or whatever you're looking for is missing so that I can become a strategic leader. So the key is to, again, like, show that ambition and not the dissatisfaction. And I'll also add that this is also helping in the why now part of things as well. Like, if you're showing, like, okay, so I'm at my max now for what I have the capacity for, then you're really, putting in the whole, like, why I need an MBA and why now, and why it'll be relevant.
Yes. So as you're saying, it's about why MBA and why now. It's a lot of schools also talk about your short-term goals and long-term goals as well. So what is, AdCom pay a lot of attention here, and almost every school application have, questions about around this in one way or the other. So how should a candidate ensure that their short-term goals, they are realistic? They sound realistic, and they serve as a stepping stone for their grander long-term goals. So how should they portray it?
Yeah, so I think, again, like, for me, I think it's all a thread of being able to tie together kind of what you've done, what you want to do, and then what you're missing. And so with that goal that you're going to be sharing, you want to be able to show, like, a specific impact that you want to be able to make, whether that's in the industry you're in or on society. So it could be, it doesn't need to be like like a congeniality contest of, like, oh, I want the world to be a better place, but I really want to make an impact with my skills on this sector or this industry. And so those are the things that you want to be able to do, and making them specific helps the AdCom see your employability and makes it less generic and makes you more marketable, and attractive to the admissions committee themselves.
Okay, that helps, and that clarifies how your short-term and long-term goals should be articulated. Before I move further, sorry, I did not mention earlier. So we will also be taking questions in the end. So anybody or any one of you, if you have questions that you want us to discuss and take, can please write in the chat box, and towards the end of the session, we'll take them. Okay, let's coming back in. So we have covered like why MBA. Now we want to cover that why now. So there's a sense of urgency that a candidate has to show, that why now is the right time for them to do that MBA. So, so first I want to talk about, is there any common mistake that you see that when what candidates do when answering this why now question, and how can their career narrative can convince the adcom that any further delay would be detrimental for their career. So that is now is the right time for them to do the MBA.
Yeah. So I mean, and oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I forgot to stop sharing the screen, so I'm sure that you can't really see us very well. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop sharing. Um, so okay. Hi. Sorry about that. Okay. So as far as it's concerned, as far as, like, what could you do wrong, if you're making it vague, and again, like, this is kind of one of those things, like, I talk to people that are on both sides of the continuum of years of work experience. 2 years of work experience or 10 years of work experience, right? And so the AdCom is like, again, like, why now? And so if you're at the very beginning of this, if you're saying, like, oh, I need to enhance my skills so that I can continue to move into the future, like, that doesn't necessarily make it so pressing. And so the AdCom will say, well, you've still got like another 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of MBA full-time viability. Like, why should we admit you now? So again, like we were kind of talking about earlier, is like, you're reaching this ceiling or you're wanting to move, whether that's up or over, pivot, that type of thing. You need to be able to describe this urgency so that they can see that, it's holding you back and it's something that needs to happen now. If you're on the other side of the continuum and closer to that, like, 10 years of work experience, which starts to edge you out of the traditional full-time MBA, like 2-year MBA time line, then you could talk about like, I've seen a lot of rapid change, and I've been able to gain a lot of momentum, but now I know that I need this to get to that next step or to be part of the change that's happening in my industry. And so, that's kind of where you can kind of say like, now is the right time for me. And like, it's really cool because Priyanka and I were talking about this, and she's like, it's like people are saying like, your industry is about to be disrupted by AI, and you need
True.
these new tools and strategy to be able to help lead the transition. And that's really what you're looking for, to get out of the MBA, right? The leadership, the knowledge, and the strategic understanding.
That's true. So you need to have, as Jen said, a specific reason. It should not go vague on, why now. The urgency, if you connect it with the market trends of your industry, etc., it sounds more authentic and more realistic. Coming back to the other question, that is why this school? So why this school is where we say this is where the generic essay dies. So what a candidate should do to go beyond the brochure of the school, the website, whatever that is present over the website of the school, that what kind of deep specific research and how they should do that research so that they are able to tell that they're genuinely interested in the school.
Yeah. So I think Priyanka knows this is like my passion. Like this is like one of my favorite subjects. And I love it. And like last week, we did a whole presentation on like who you need to talk to do your research and how to incorporate that in there. So, again, like just go ahead and I'm not going to go through all of that today, but you can go back and look at our YouTube and be able to see that of those like 3 important conversations before you submit your application. But essentially, what you need to do is you need to talk to people, and beyond just seeing what's on the website or the brochure, so to say, like who even has a brochure anymore. But going beyond that, like you want to be able to have conversations with somebody, and whether that's, somebody who's in a club or activity that you want to be part of when you join that MBA, or it's somebody who's in the like had a similar trajectory, right? Like they were worked as a software engineer, now they're in the MBA and they want to move into finance, right? Like, so if there's somebody on a similar trajectory to you, then you want to dive deep into that and say like, what made you decide on this school? What has been your favorite part? What class do you think I absolutely need? The other thing, and this is not necessarily related to the actual application itself, but I think like most valuable to a candidate who's applying to any MBA program is talking to them about the internship and the job offers, right? Like, because when we look at employment reports, those are actually from like a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And yeah, it's great information, standard information that's going to give you something. But if you're able to talk to somebody and find out like who's getting offers, what that looks like, especially if you're applying to the US and maybe you're a little bit confused about what the landscape looks like as far as, job offers, H-1B, like visas, like all that kind of craziness, you talk to somebody at the school and you're going to find out what's really going on and understand it. And, these folks are like living through this right now. And so, instead of rumors or what people are thinking is happening, like you can actually talk to them and see, what's going on with the career centers, saying, what, like boots on the ground, as we say sometimes. So you get that insight, and you want to take that insight and you want to fold it into your MBA application and your essays and things like that, so that the school feels special. And Priyanka, like MBA admissions committees right now, they're curating a class. They want to be able to see, who is going to be a good fit for their specific school. And this is the way that you show that you are, not just that you can read a website, but you can talk to people and you can make sure that this is the right fit for you. You've done the networking, and this is how you know that a school thousands of miles away from your hometown or anywhere you've ever visited is the right fit for you. So, okay, I'm gonna back off because I get excited. But yeah, so this is a really important part of the process, and I think that making sure that you do that research is, the important part of being able to say why our school is your number one choice.
True. I mean, as you say that, this Jen saying that take that extra step to get to know the school better, network, talk to people, talk to current students, alumni, people from the industry of that school, understand, your subject, what are their goals, what are the specialization that you are targeting, what are the clubs that they have, or what a kind of internship, as Jennifer mentioned, that get into all those things to understand why this school can be strongly answered. So we mentioned a lot about that, how the school can help you fill that skill deficit, and how you can contribute. But as I mentioned, a lot of schools have the contributor essay questions, Jennifer. Most of them
Mm-hmm.
have. So the school is not only looking at how the school can contribute to your career growth. The AdCom is also looking that how the candidate will add value to their cohort, to their class. So, can you help us that how the candidate, demonstrate in this essay that what unique and specific value they can add to school's community and the culture? So, how should they go about it?
Yeah. So again, digging into those clubs and activities is really like the essence of the experience of the MBA program, right? So you're going to have case studies, group projects, but like a lot of that social side is going to come from the clubs and activities. And some of them are broken down into different categories. So you have like the professional, which are like the consulting club, the finance club, those types of things. Then you have kind of the hobbies and like that side, and then there's the service or the affiliations, right? So like if you're like Indian Student Association, the LGBTQ club, like all of that kind of falls into these different categories. And so thinking about what is the biggest part of who you are and how you can leverage that and give back to the community and connect with others is really the important part of showing how I plan to contribute, right? And so it doesn't always have to be the professional side of like, oh, I'm going to teach people about Bitcoin or AI or something like that. It could be I'm really passionate about community service and being able to give back, and I've led different tutoring sessions and programs within my community, and I want to do that when I joined Duke Fuqua and do that in Durham, especially with the Give Back Day that they have, right? Like, so it doesn't always have to be so professionally related. It's more of like, how do you fit with their personality and what they do as a cohort? And so if you can find a way to show how you're going to be a part of that, that's really what they're looking for, and how you can give back and be, again, like an active part and participant to that.
Yeah, it's true. And I think almost all top schools have like 70, 80 plus clubs, student clubs. So
Yeah.
we're pretty sure that if you do, you dig deep, you do research, you will definitely find something that syncs to your personality, maybe professionally, academically, interest-wise, volunteering work-wise. So there must be something. The good number of clubs, all top schools have.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about everything here. Why now? Why MBA? Why this school? And the contributor essay as well. So, Jennifer, can you tell me if there is a cohesion test, okay, wherein we can tie all this thing together? Is there a way to check, or the how AdCom see? Is there a way to check this that all these three are tied well in the story and seems logical to the AdCom maybe?
Yeah. So if you think about everything that you're saying and putting this puzzle together, if you remove the school's name, do the essays still work? And so if the answer is yes, the essay fails, right? So it needs to be so specific that it only makes sense really for that school. And so you want to make sure that things align with that school in a way that that school again like really feels like on all different categories that they're the best fit for who you are and who they are. And so I know that sounds a little bit crazy, like if you took the name out, like could you read through the essay, but in the end, like it won't work for any other school. You can't copy and paste this from one school to the next because it won't make sense for all of them.
That's so true. So do the required hard work. Okay. Don't copy paste your essays. They sound similar essays. I can use these essays for another school. Please don't do that. As Jen was saying, if you can, tailor each essays as per the school vision, mission, as per the school requirements, and that's how you should go about it. So tell us about essay killer, Jennifer. So what is that? That's a common mistake that candidates do, and that just kills the tone of the essay, and AdComs just stop reading your essay any further and don't go. So what's that common mistake that you see in number of applicants? And since you're telling the mistake, can you also tell us the fix of that mistake as well?
Oh, okay. Whoa, you're putting me on the spot. Okay. So I think that it's like the lack of self-awareness is usually a big part of this, right? Like not being able to see who you are and how that fits, or being too vague. That's like another side. So some people will hide behind cliches, or maybe the tried and true make a weakness also a strength kind of thing. So the way to kind of fix this is to be vulnerable. Um, and that's hard, right? And this is like such an emotional experience of writing essays. And if it's not emotional to you and it feels like you're just filling out forms, then you're missing it, right? Like you got to dig deeper. And this is a self like you're going on your own self-discovery kind of journey here with the MBA applications, and that's really exciting because it's a great jumping point for starting an MBA, is like really knowing who you are before you do go. But finding a way to be vulnerable and share who you are and being able to reflect on that, right? And being able to show how you've learned and you've grew over time. And that's what the school is looking for, is that awareness. You don't have to be perfect. I mean, I think like that's the biggest thing is, if you're perfect, then why do you need an MBA? Like if you're all set, then why do you need this? And so being able to share like that you have things that you need to work on, I think that's okay.
True. I mean, the uh, the ideally everything should sync, and as Jen mentioned, it's a kind of reflection. It's a lot of introspection that is needed when you write an essay. So reflect, understand what you're writing. It's a good it's an application journey, and just put your heart out, okay, and write what is asked by the school. A lot of students, as you're saying that, we see a common mistake also, Jennifer, that people are writing a lot, but they're not answering the question of the essay. Okay,
Yeah.
so that also happens. It sounds very silly to people, but it's a very realistic thing that happened. You are so indulged in writing that you have, preconceived that you want what you want to write, and you're ignoring what the essay actually asks for. So, just ensure that you are answering the essay prompt when you are writing the essay. Going ahead, Jennifer, so as we understand, the writing an MBA application essay, it's writing a compelling narrative of your career journey, your personality, and everything. So it's easy to say, but it's a very complex thing to do. So when the candidates are to face a challenging situation of how to write about, they have the story with them, but how to write a cohesive story. So how an MBA admission consulting firm like say Aringo can help those candidates add value, and how they can end up in those strong essays.
Yeah. So I would say that we help you with architecture, right, of your story, or we're the story architect. And so I would say we're not editing the words that you're giving us. We're helping you with mining for your deepest stories, identifying what the most compelling narrative is that you have to share, and making sure that it hits on all of these three different whys throughout the entire application, and that it's, again, like customized and tailored to these specific schools. So I think like that's the thing about having somebody helping you through this entire process, helps ensure that you're answering those questions, because like you said, like people have an idea of what they want to say and what they want to share, but they don't necessarily get there. And so, that's, having somebody along that journey, whether it's an MBA admissions consultant or it's a friend, somebody who's graduated from the program, somebody like that, that's been able to review your application and be able to read it. That's what they're looking for is, how do we get something so deep and compelling that it makes sense to each one of these specific schools that you're applying for? They feel like they're your number one choice. And then it gets you that interview so you can get in front of them and really show them who you are. Yeah. So, that's how somebody can help.
Thanks, Jen. So before I move to question and answer round and details, I want to share the offers that I discussed in during the starting of the session. So as I mentioned, there are three offers that we are doing. Is one, as I mentioned, that we are providing a free strategy call session to one of the lucky attendants. It's a $500 service in general, but we want to give that as a free thing to one lucky person. Second is we are also giving a complimentary profile evaluation, 30-minute long profile evaluation session with Jen. Okay, so go ahead, schedule an appointment with Jen. You can just write to us or Jen. So you must be receiving a lot of emails from me, so you can write to me as well, or you can write Jennifer, if you can show the calendar
Yep.
uh, to the calendar link. So you can also schedule a call with her and discuss about your career goals, your schools, your essays, if you're stuck anywhere, and she can guide you in that session. And third, another very valuable offer that we are doing is we are giving a $1,000 discount on our comprehensive school packages for anyone who enrolls with us in the next 5 days. So if you want to get in touch with us, understand your story, or understand the services and everything, in the next 5 days, you finalize us. You will get a $1,000 flat discount on any comprehensive school package that you choose. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Moving on to question answer round. And Jennifer has shared his calendar link, so anyone can go ahead and schedule the call as well. Yes. So first question we have from Palomi. Hi, Palomi. Palomi asks, every essay should be tailored to the school's unique ideals, mission, and vision. So that's how one has to go. One has to customize each and every essay uh, as per the school ideal mission.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some easy ways that you can kind of get like some basic ideas about the mission and vision. Obviously, you can look at it, Google, or look on their website to find it. And sometimes it's easier to search for, to be honest. But the other side is to look at the school and like their website and their advertising and what they're putting kind of, like on their banners and in their admissions side of the of the website, and kind of get those bold ideas of what's really they're looking for in a candidate. But yeah, you should be trying to tailor it to make sure that you're showing how you're a good fit for this. Yeah. So
Thanks.
you want to do it.
The next question we have from Bhavya. Hi, Bhavya. Should your LORs act as, just a second, sorry. Should your LORs act as a validator of things you are saying in the essays, or should the LOR add to the aspects which may not have been covered in the other parts of your application? Very interesting question, Bhavya.
Yeah, great one. So what I would say is that LORs should reinforce what you've shared in your application, but share new stories, right? Because they're going to be asked at least one or two different, tell us a time when kind of situations, or tell us when you've provided feedback and they've had to, how they've improved upon any sort of feedback that you've had to give them or things like that. And so you want those stories to be new, but ring true with what you've been saying throughout your application. And obviously, you can't write your letters for your recommenders per the rules of the applications, but you can definitely give them help. And so if you can share with them your essays, sit down and have a coffee chat with them and share your goals and, everything like that, then that definitely is very helpful for the LOR to be in line with what you're sharing.
Thanks, Jennifer. I hope, Bhavya, that answers the question. Next question we have from Harshal. Hi, Harshal. How many school-specific resources should I mention in my why this school essay?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's not like a perfect formula. I wish that there was but you can kind of take it from maybe three different sections, right? Like it's as easy as like, academically, professionally, and then socially, right? Like see if you can kind of hit on all three of those categories so that the school feels like, okay, we're a good fit. We're going to help them get to their goals. We're a good fit that we're going to teach you new things and that you can contribute to the classroom discussion. But then also that outside of class, you're going to bond and do well with the other students in your cohort. I think that those are the biggest things. So there's no like magic number of how many to talk about, but I wouldn't say like, oh, only three, because you might have like two or three clubs that you're like, I really want to be a part of. And it doesn't mean that you have to say like, I'm going to be a leader in every single one of them, but you can pick one, right? Like your time is not going to be that robust, your free time, because you're going to be in a lot of project meetings. You're going to be doing a lot of recruitment, etc. But, leadership in one club and membership in two others is, pretty ideal. And then, attendee at other clubs as they come along. So that's my thought.
Thanks, Jen. Yes, so the resources should be, number of resources should be ideally more than two at least, so that the school strongly feels that, this school is something that the candidate is really interested in. Next question we have from Abha. So is asking that I have a 6-month gap on my resume. I did volunteering works and also spent 3 months prepping to take over management at another company. That's the current employer. Should I even explain this on my resume or should I do it through essay?
There's, without like getting in depth, which we absolutely can sign up for that, post event profile eval, and we can kind of dig into it. But I would say that you want to do that in the optional essay. I think that's the better place so that you're making sure that you're still answering the questions that the AdCom wants you to answer in the essay prompts they've provided. You can use the optional essay to talk about what this gap is, and then interesting about spending 3 months to prepare to take over the management another company. So I mean, like that sounds interesting to me, but developing a succinct, short, optional essay to say, I transitioned from this one company to this next one during this, 6-month gap. I did this, this, and this. And so like you're filling in any questions that the AdCom might have by looking at your resume, and making sure that they don't make their own assumptions, right? Like you don't want an admissions committee to assume anything. You want to tell them everything. And that's, the way that you can do it is nice and concisely through that optional essay.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And very important thing Jen mentioned, that don't keep the adcoms in guessing mode. Okay, explain whatever that you think needs an explanation and put it across in your optional essay. That specific space that is provided for similar situation. And yes, it's an looks like it's a very exciting and unique story. So good luck with that. Next question we have from Abhi. Hi Abhi. He asked that how do we show career transition through essays or in interviews? Like if we are into investment banking but want to study supply chain, how do we show that change?
I think you talk about why you want to do the change, right? Like, what is it that you experienced while you're in investment banking that sparked your interest in supply chain? Or was your interest always in supply chain? And you're like, okay, I really enjoyed supply chain in this early job, got the break, and was able to join an investment bank. And it was fun, but I missed this element of supply chain and realize that this is where I want to be long term. And I can take the skills that I've learned and experience from investment banking and now use it and carry forward in supply chain through capex, like all that kind of stuff, expenditures, etc. But you want to show why, right? Like I think like that's the bigger thing. Um, you know, how did you decide you wanted to go from one thing to the next? And for me, I also, again, going back to that thread, is, like, is there something about supply chain that's, drawn you to it because of the logistics side, right? Like, is that something, like, I always get excited when I'm trying to, problem solve, and there's not necessarily always that. Well, I guess there probably could be that in anything, but like if there's something that really excites you that you're missing, then I feel like that's the best way to explain it is, I've always been excited about this. When I made the move to investment banking, consulting, etc., it was missing. And now I want to make that move back, or I want to make the move to this because I know that it'll be better. Whatever that kind of sounds most interesting and logical.
True. So, Abhi, you need to focus not only on how, you need to also focus on why you want to make that career transition. And that's where the AdCom interest lies. Bhavya has another question. Like, if I have joined my company only like 8 months ago and I'm uncomfortable asking my current employer for an LOR, is it okay to submit LORs from only my previous employer?
Yeah. So this is something that the AdCom again is understanding of, right? The economy across the globe is sensitive, and not every employer is on board with losing an employee in maybe the next 8 to 9 months. So it could put your job in jeopardy. So if you feel like that's going to happen, don't ask the question. Don't ask them. I've had two clients in the past decade that have done that and lost their job, which is so sad, so unfortunate. You're in the middle of this process. If you feel like it's going to risk your job, then don't. I don't know that it's necessarily worth it. In the end, if it's a question of like if you're going to get admitted and that kind of thing. Anyways, so what you do if you're going to use somebody that's not your direct supervisor from your current company is either in the letter of recommendation form that you fill out in the application, it'll say, if it's not your current employer or your current boss, let us know why. If that's not in the LOR description, then you want to go into the optional essay and say, you'll notice that I'm utilizing a letter of recommendation from my boss at my X company because I feel like if I ask for a letter of recommendation from my current company, it could jeopardize my job. It doesn't have to be, lengthy or anything like that. It just needs to be able to share, why you wouldn't want to do it and be, again, succinct for them to be able to understand why.
Yes, true. Jennifer, I also wanted to cover a few questions that we had during the time of registration. So we
Yeah.
had a very important, interesting question about why this school. So a candidate has asked that the school knows that you're applying to multiple schools. Okay. So when you write why the school, the school know you're applying to other schools and this might not be a top choice. So how do they tackle about it? If I'm applying to say INSEAD and LBS and HEC Paris and I have to write why the school, how AdCom is perceiving that?
Yeah, again, I think that AdComs can kind of see through some of that and how much you've put into, like, invested in the research of the school to be able to put it there. In the end, they've made your list, right? Like, if you're applying, then you hopefully would be happy with attending that school, right? Like, otherwise, I don't think you should be applying. So think about it, each application that you tackle, you want to pretend that they are your number one choice when you're going through the application process. Don't continue to think of them as the backup. Now move them to the primary. If I go to this school, what am I going to get? What classes do I want to take? What treks or tracks or, clubs do I want to join? Like those types of things. And then being able to kind of put that into the essays is the important part. And again, like doing the research, talking to the students, don't skip what you would do for your number one school that you would do for your number 5 school on your list. Don't skip that. Still do the same things. By the time you get to your 5th school or 5th application, yeah, some of the essence of the essays can, be carried from one to the other, but you still want to make them feel special because, again, like with everything that's going on, we're never 100% sure how the admissions committee is doing, their decision or making their decisions this, cycle, season, etc. What the top of the administration is saying. So you want to make sure that all of them feel special. And the way that you do that is by keeping that mindset of like, if I did go to this school, which I would be happy to do, what would I take advantage of?
Okay, so make a note, research, research, research. So that's very important. You have to research, dig deep, go beyond what is there available, network to people, attend webinars, info sessions, a lot of things. And if you want to do it, there are a lot of avenues to do it. So that's how you go about it. Another question, Jenifer, that we had from one of the candidates was that as an international, is talking about your international background overdone? Like he's thinking that he has a multinational upbringing and has shaped him into who he is today, but he's afraid it may not stand out among other international students. So is it being overdoing it?
Mm, I don't know for an MBA that you can overdo it, right? Like when we think about an MBA, most AdComs are trying to curate a class that has different demographics and backgrounds. So if you have a multinational background, so I can take a kind of like a case study from a client last year, born in India, raised in Australia, but working in Dubai, right? Like, so all of those are, unique in general. But just because of maybe the name, the natural assumption is that, they've lived in India their entire life until, you dig into the application and see these different countries listed. And so what that tells me as an admissions committee member is one is that you understand how to adapt to new cultures. Like I can automatically assume that you can understand that not everybody is going to be like you and sometimes you're the odd man out, and that you can figure out how to not necessarily assimilate but work together and how to communicate, and then that you've been exposed to other cultures and you know how to work across those different communications and lifestyles. And so, that's the thing and the key that you're bringing to the AdCom. And, honestly, like I think that an AdCom would be super excited if everybody in their class had a multinational upbringing or, experience. So I don't think it's overdone. I think it's in how you share that with the AdCom. That's the important part is, you know, from living in this country to this country, I've learned about this. What is, your key ingredient about you and what you've learned to be able to share with the AdCom and either share with your cohort, or that will make it easier for you to be a part of the MBA program or be an awesome peer and future employee.
Yes, thanks, Tin. We have another question from Abha and mentions that adding to that question of LORs, that if they need to write 2 LORs, generally the schools ask for two, should she go for 2 employers or should she ask one from the professors from the university also? Is it suggested to ask take from an
For
academic point?
Yeah, so for an MBA, they don't want any letters of recommendation from an academic standpoint, unless you and your professor ran a business together or they were technically like an employer outside of graduate studies, unless that's like your only work. Then we can talk about that offline, but they only want professional letters of recommendation at this point. So you should do 2 letters of recommendation. It's okay if they're from the same company, that's totally fine. Or if they're from 2 different companies, that is fine as well, but not from academic.
Thanks, Jen. Um, Another question that we have is that for the why MBA aspect, how would you see whether a candidate is pursuing an MBA for the right reasons? What sort of evidence can they provide to demonstrate that?
Yeah, so so sometimes people will get fixated on a certain aspect of like, I want to get a higher salary, or I just want to get a global perspective. That's not enough, honestly, to invest sometimes like $250,000, right? Like, are you really going to come? Are you going to really attend? Like, what are your, like, that's not always going to happen. Or I would also say that like having false pretenses of like what will happen, like it is not automatic that just because you went to Wharton that you will get a finance job, right? Like that's something that you have to work towards. You have to put in the work on. So you need to be able to show them the motivation behind it as well, because the well, AdComs are worried about employment, right? Like they want to make sure that you're going to get a job altruistically and for rankings. But then also like the Career Center, they're going to do everything that they can to connect you with, alumni, the employers that they're part of. But it's not a placement process. Like you have to do the work, you have to apply, you have to interview. And sometimes you have to do the networking and find the jobs. So that's what they're looking for, is the motivation to make sure that you're going to get to that point. And if you're going in with kind of false pretenses, or maybe not motivated properly for the MBA, then they can kind of see that in your application.
Okay, so one has to be clear and just don't give the vague reasons, specific reasons that helps AdCom convince that by need an
Yeah.
MBA right now. Also, there's a question about Jennifer around the second MBA. So there are some candidates who are doing, they have already done an MBA and they're applying to schools for a second MBA degree. So when the question comes for why MBA, why now, how is there a different way that they should tackle these questions?
Yeah. And I think this will always be in the back of the mind of the AdCom is, why do you need a second MBA? Why do you need to do this again? And I think like the biggest question is, or the biggest way to answer this is, it's not again, right? Like this is not the same thing. Like your MBA is different from the MBA that I took, right after I graduated from my bachelor's degree. There's a lot of Indian candidates who, got their MBA immediately after their bachelor's, and it's much more of theory than it is practical, and you haven't had any work experience to make it relevant. So I think like that's usually my basis of, how you kind of answer that why MBA is that, I didn't gain the practical skills. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking about like, even when she got her MBA, like AI wasn't like even like a big thing like at that point, machine learning, all that kind of stuff, right? But like going into product and tech, like it's everything. And so you need to go back and get those skills because they're missing. And that's why, she wants the MBA to, gain those skills and understanding, plus to be able to lead the next revolution or iteration of, AI and product in, a different sector. And so, it's totally fine to apply for a second MBA. it's normal. A lot of people do it. There needs to be some space. Like you can't do it back to back traditionally and it feel very valid for the AdCom themselves. But it's, you want to give that explanation of what was missing from that MBA to why you need this MBA. And then on our site, we also have, there's certain schools that don't allow double MBAs, just that they don't allow you to seek the same degree title that you had. So if it's like a PGP or PGP, any of those programs, like you want to clarify with specific schools to make sure that they fit. But we have those listed on our site too. Priyanka put them up.
Yes. Yes, we have that list. So we have the answers from every school that whether they take a second MBA candidate or not. So please, before you do all the hassle of applying to school, ensure if you're a second MBA candidate, whether the school is open to take you. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. That's a question that we have. And in case, any of you have more questions, you can schedule a call with Jen. You can email us and we will be happy to answer. I remember the offer about the getting enrolled with us in 5 days to avail the $1,000 discount. So for that also, I would recommend that start with the conversation with Jen so that you have time to make your plans and proceed accordingly. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining, and we'll soon come up with the next Aringo Coffee Chat session, and we'll let you know and share the details. Thank you so much,
Excellent.
Jennifer. That was a very interesting session.
Thanks, everyone. So excited. I'll follow up with an email again with the offer as well as the recording once we get this posted. But if you have questions between now and then, I've posted again the eval link for us to have a chat. Or you can also email me at JenniferT@Aringo. If I spell my name correctly, it'll work. But feel free to reach out if you need to answer questions before I get to them. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Bye bye.
Bye.